Do-do-do-do-do-do-do. This is my favorite beer, Rocher Trappist. My son's like addicted to Crash Bandicoot. He wakes up every day asking me to play Crash Bandicoot. That was my favorite game growing up. But it's like, bro, not every day. You be tired at 7 o'clock in the morning not trying to play no video games. Shout out Rocher Trappist. You ever want to sponsor the show? Any artists want to donate any art, I'll take that too. But hey, welcome to a new episode of Word from Our Sponsors. It's your host, Ricky. I'm really excited for this week's episode. I got my boy Jody falling through. We're talking all things NBA Conference Finals. Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks are a 1-0 on the Milwaukee Bucks. We're going to see if Giannis can pull from behind for a second straight series, or is it time to make some big changes in Milwaukee? And then we're going to hop over into the Western Conference where Chris Paul's returning. So we're going to see if Jody thinks this is going to be a quick series. And if Paul George has bought enough time to stay with the Clippers beyond this season, and what Kawhi's going to do in his upcoming free agency decision-making himself. Stick around. First, I got a couple things on my mind.
And now a word from our sponsors.
Okay, so hear me out. By far the craziest thing I've seen on the internet this week had to have been the public execution of Ben Simmons.
Ass Ben Simmons, you f***ing crumb bum! Get Ben Simmons the f*** out of my city!
Okay, yeah, that was an awful performance in the second round of the East playoffs. I get it. I understand that he shot worse at the free throw line than Shaq did in the Hack-a-Shaq era. I understand that, yes. I know Ben Simmons only took 3 shots all fourth quarters combined in a 7-game series. Understood all that. Does he look disinterested at times? Absolutely. Is he untapped potential? 100%. But hear me out. Y'all gonna be mad if and when Ben Simmons gets traded to a good team. If he ended up on a team like the Lakers, for example, motherfuckers would scream Clutch Mafia, stacking the decks once again, and Ben Simmons just tanked this past season so he can end up a Laker. Like, just think about it. If he ended up in San Antonio under Greg Popovich, everybody's mindset would shift to, wow, he's under the right teacher. Ben Simmons is going to be back on his path of hitting his full potential. It's amazing. Hell, I bet a Ben Simmons, Steph Curry, and Klay Thompson trio would bring some positive discussions around his name. Y'all thought it was the best thing for D'Angelo Russell, right? Let's just keep it 100. This was Ben Simmons' worst output across the board for points, rebounds, assists, and shot attempts in his career. Now, I wonder if it had anything to do with the arrival of a certain head coach in Philadelphia.
Doc, you think Ben Simmons can still be a point guard for a championship team like the one you guys want to become?
Yeah, David, I don't know that question or the answer to that right now.
Hey. All I'm saying is be careful how far you bury this dude. The 3-time All-Star and current 2-time first-team All-Defensive player is only 24. You ask me? I consider this a turning point in Ben Simmons' career. Well, except if he gets traded to an unstable organization without vets that would keep him accountable. Like if he ended up in Sacramento or Orlando, disregard everything that I just said. But I'm just saying, Ben Simmons is a perennial all-star without the jump shot. Did he get exposed on the main stage this year in the playoffs? Absolutely. But there's usually an inflection point in every player's career where they figure out, are they destined for actual greatness? Or just, a really good player that made a lot of money along the way? We'll find out. But enough of me talking. Let's throw it over to our conversation with Jody. And now a word from our sponsors. All right, new episode of Word from Our Sponsors. It's your host, Ricky. I got my boy Jody stopping by in the building. We got plenty of basketball to talk about right now. Sir. The Eastern and Western Conference Finals are underway. Game 1 of the East was last night. Jay, I don't know what to do right now, man. We believe the Atlanta Hawks have taken a Game 1 on the road victory over the Milwaukee Bucks. I don't care if his name is Ice Trae. Trae Young had 0 chill last night, 48 and 11, doing disrespectful shimmy threes, throwing lobs off the backboard for John Collins. Man, you got to tell me, right? The Bucks are the 3 seed. They're the higher seed. This is the second round in a row that they have dropped game 1. And this was a game where they led most of the first 3 quarters. So what are your eyes telling you when you watch this series? Did the Hawks steal this, or did the Bucks just cough it up?
I think it was honestly a bit of both. The thing that kind of it crystallized for me the end of the Bucks series against the Nets going into the series against the Hawks. So like everybody was imploring Bud to take Lopez off the floor and just leave Giannis at the 5 when he's playing against Kevin Durant and James Harden. Even though James Harden wasn't 100%, obviously we could see KD, even though he's coming off of an Achilles, was every bit of what we expected and wanted to see out of him in that series. Like, he really played an impeachable series as far as the circumstances that was in front of him and what he did. You know, he didn't make the last shot of the series, but these things happen sometimes, you know, and watching that game, it was just indicative of Bud being one of those coaches that would rather lose his way than actually win his way or lose his way, than actually making an adjustment to do something that's going to be successful instead of dying with his style and living with his style. Because I was saying it, I think last series when the Hawks were playing the Sixers, when you have an elite floater and an elite lob threat, you can get whatever you want to in the half court pretty much. And Trae pretty much got the best floater in the league. I don't understand how Bud doesn't see that keeping Lopez out there is actively sinking his team. That's pretty much my main takeaway as far as the Bucks are concerned, because Drew pretty much played over his head. I don't know if Drew's going to come with another 30 plus and 11. He will, but I'm not expecting that to come. I know Giannis is going to do essentially pretty much what he's going to do. He's going to be in that 27 to 32 range on average, you know what I mean? But
Bro,
Trae,
this is Bud's what, second, third series in a row, right? Where it's like, bro, you are on thin ice, my brother. If you don't come out of this series looking competent and victorious, the next time you don't, you're going to be up out there and in the unemployment line. I got to think, after dropping game 1 and making little to no adjustments, what Trae have in the first half? Like 27? Like, come on, man.
30.
Come on, man. Like, I'm sorry. We would watch, you know, superstars, obviously watching LeBron and watching Kobe. Once they have that type of night and everybody in the stadium, in the building knows it's that type of night, usually the coaches at halftime make some type of adjustment saying, you know what, we're going to double team. We're going to triple team. What's the notion? Anybody but, right? When it's time to lock down a superstar. But sitting up there and he just like, well, you know, we just going to keep to the scheme, keep to the game plan, and we'll make adjustments game to game. That's my biggest issue with Bud. He doesn't want to make in-game adjustments. He wants to make game-to-game adjustments and just die on the sword, bro.
Right. I feel like that's essentially, he'd rather lose his way than adjust as the series goes on. And it's unfortunate that they're in the situation that they're in, because obviously hiring coaches, you also got to think who's better available, you know what I mean? And they might be in a situation where they don't know. I feel like anytime there's a new position, Jason Kidd's name is just thrown out there just for the hell of it. And
and he's taking his name out of stuff. He's
already been in that lane, so he's not coming back. I don't really know where they would go unless they would try somebody who's never been a coach again. But I don't know if you want to put Giannis in that situation by being essentially he'll be like almost an 8-year veteran here soon. Has he been in the league for that long yet? I
mean, I feel like actually we can pull it up right now.
Because I feel like he's about 7 or 8 years in by now. I just don't know how much, even though it's not like it's never happened before, you can't do it. I don't know how much you want to do something like that with the established veteran.
He got drafted.
So yeah, he's 7, 8 years in. So it just depends on what they see going forward. If they see Giannis as a forward like a point forward, quote unquote, or if they gonna see. I guess it just depends on the philosophy they want to play with, man.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Bucks end up victorious in this crazy ass series. And speaking of the craziness in it, a lot has to do with this boy Trae Young, man. And you want to talk about coming out parties? You follow hoops, you stay connected. The number one thing since Trae Young has been in the draft is his connection with Luka Doncic, right? Who won that trade? Oh, out the gate. It's clear that the Mavericks won this trade. Look at Luka. Look at what he's doing. Look how great he is. And then you turn around and you see that Luka hasn't been out the first round. And then not even that, you look at Trae Young's first time in the playoffs, and where is he? Eastern Conference Finals as the number one option on the team. So I don't want to get caught up in the recency bias, but Trae Young is now on the stage of superstardom.
Mm-hmm.
How many point guards in the league are you taking before him to put a winning championship team together?
So listen,
just tell me.
I comprised a list of essentially all of the point guards in NBA, either pretty much on the good teams, excellent teams, down to the bad teams. And this is essentially the 5 that I came up with.
Okay.
Up until this point, up until the 48 piece that Trae just dropped on the
recency bias included. Yes.
Yes. So I got Steph number 1. Clearly, it's not even a question. And then there's a space. I think we have to be respectful and especially be mindful of what Steph did this year, even though they didn't make the odds. And Steph missed a few games, so I'm assuming if he played more, they probably would have been in better position and not necessarily in the play-in. Maybe not. But Steph was top tier. We talked before the season, and we were like, we don't know how the Warriors gonna make the playoffs because where the offense gonna come from. Right. And Steph just went out there and damn near average 32 or 34 if I remember.
He made the offense, right? Yeah.
So
the Black Mamba style, right?
Type shit. So I got Steph 1. It was tough, but I got Dame number 2. Even though there's a gap between Steph and Dame, there's a significant gap. Even though he's getting on my damn nerves, respectfully, I have Chris Paul number 3.
Okay.
And then here's where it's starting to get fishy, and people on Twitter probably going to start to light me up. I got Trae number 4. Now, this is the issue with number 5. And I had to look at this specifically. Harden is listed as a shooting guard. Kyrie is listed as a point guard.
Right. Kyrie as a point guard in this. I have Kyrie as a point guard in this scenario, just so we're on the same page.
Okay. So I have Kyrie listed besides Harden. I have Harden/Kyrie.
Okay. Because it's hard to argue that whoever's playing point for them is probably the 4th best point guard or 5th best point guard on your list.
Okay. And honestly, it was a joke going around last night. Could Kyrie do what Trae is doing this year? To this point, I have not seen Kyrie do what Trae has done this season. It just is what it is. You can make of that whatever you want to. I'm not trying to bash Kyrie. I'm just saying I have not seen
my notes too.
I have not seen Kyrie do what Trae is doing. Not to say that Kyrie's not capable of putting up 40 in the playoffs or making big shots, because we know that he is.
Correct.
Trae was in game 7 and was shooting terribly. There was about 75% of that game where he only made 2 buckets, literally 2 made field goals, and was still on the floor, not getting played off the floor because of his passing ability.
Right.
You can't, he's an engine. He's like a damn V8, V12 engine, essentially. Kyrie was famously told Ty Lue, that's what you got LeBron for. He's the one that's getting people involved. I'm the one that's putting the ball in the bucket. So I feel like Harden, if the Nets were to reach their goals, it would have been because, assuming they would have stayed healthy, it would have been because Harden would have been the one orchestrating the offense and making sure that everyone is essentially being together with how he runs a pick and roll and his lob threat with Speedy Claxton, with how he can get the ball to Bruce Bowen. And, KD and Kyrie going to get whatever they gonna get, whatever, no matter what. But I feel like James would have been the one to get everybody together. So that's essentially my 5. I got Luka right outside of that with Drew and Jamal Murray, and then I got Ja
Yeah, Ja on the outside looking in on my list as well. But I
Yeah,
love me some Ja. He's probably one of my favorite players to watch. But at this stage in his life, in his career, I think that the outside shooting is going to
right.
still improve. He looks like a guy who just is going to keep getting better until he gets to
Mhm.
that spot. Okay, so run it one more time, 1 through 5, real quick.
So 1 through 5, I got Steph at 1, Dame at 2, CP3 at 3, Trey at 4, and Harden/Kai at 5.
Okay. Okay. We're together. We're on the same page with Steph. Greatest shooter ever, right? Will still be the best shooter in the NBA well into his mid 30s and his late 30s, right? He will
Correct.
be he'll have every shooting, record, 3-point record that ever existed. And when
Correct.
he breaks all those in a Lakers uniform, it'll be even better. Um I'm sorry, as Warriors fans, I couldn't resist. Two, I agree, and I love your point about there being a gap. I absolutely there should be. You got to respect greatness of Steph Curry, but number two is Damian Lillard. He is the most clutch player of his generation right now. He is the must-see TV anytime he's
Mhm.
in the playoffs. He is literally like carrying Portland to being a competent basketball team. So
Mhm.
can't wait to see what happens in the next chapter of Dame's career. But I got him at number 2. Number 3. Am I wrong for putting Luca up there? I got it. I'm rolling with Luca, man. I mean, 22. This is his second first team All NBA. He's giving you 27, 9, and 7. First to get to 5,000 points among active NBA
Mhm.
players. The fastest to do that. The scoring is there. The clutch is there. The confidence is there in Luca. And the age is exactly where I want in my point guard of the future. Now, does he
Mhm.
have a little diva in him? I think we see in the answer to that, but that's okay. I don't hate that. I don't hate it, but it just real quick, is Luca a stretch at 3?
Talent wise, no. I think out of respect for what other players have done at that
Mm-hmm.
high level for the position, I feel like I wouldn't be able to put. I had a hard. This is the hardest part of my list because I had Luca higher at first, and I had to revise mine and go over it again. And
Them two
so
first round exits back to back years. Yes, I know the team that he's on, but results are results. And I think I had it here in my notes. I said, hey, maybe the worst thing for Luca right now is that he's not on the Atlanta Hawks and playing in the Eastern Conference. Not saying that the West is just across the board always going to be harder than the East,
no, I know what
but
you're
that man
saying.
had to face the Clippers 2 years in a row in the first round. Come
It's
on.
a it's weird because it's an unlucky draw, especially in the first time, even though they were up in the series, it was a unprecedented situation essentially. And I mean, his even though KP essentially didn't produce as much, his presence was missed, obviously, in the first series. The second series, I do feel like they could have and should have been got the job done and closed them out just because they won the first two at home. I feel like they should have been able, but also Luca got hurt and messed up his neck that series, so I'm certain that had a point in it. But I mean, talent wise, it's completely justifiable.
Yep. Okay. You know what? And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm dropping Luca a step. I don't like the first round exits. I don't like that at all. 4 right now, which would probably be now my 3. So I'm officially changing Luca to 4 in
Okay.
mid discussion. 3 is CP3. You had him as well, right? If I
Yeah,
needed he is the original PG. If your team needs an immediate raise of their floor, you go and get Chris
mid-range
Paul.
killer,
Right.
and
He's you know exactly what you're going to get, and you will see exactly his value this summer
mhm,
at 36 years old, getting ready to sign for buku money for multiple years. Like, my man gonna be pushing 40, almost making $40 million. Can I
that
get a
shit
hallelujah
crazy.
on that? My
Can I
God,
get it?
God
That
bless
shit
America.
crazy.
And then
Tabernacle.
five, five prisoner of the moment. Give me Trae Young. Give me Trae Young. The only reason that I got Trae over Kyrie is because Trae is a 1 right now, leading his team to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yes, sir.
Yes, when Kyrie was a 1 by himself with the Cavs, those teams were non-competitive. We get that. Not all his fault. When he was winning with LeBron, he was not the number one option, right? Fine. At best, he was 1B. I think he was more like option 2 when it was time to get busy. But hey, he has his comments about,
Right.
looking over and seeing other guys. But I would beg to differ because LeBron's got hardware, multiple hardware as finals MVP, and Kyrie has not gotten out of the second round
without that man.
Without being the number one
This
scorer.
year, it's unfortunate because
it is unfortunate.
But he
still wouldn't have been number one,
though. Yeah, and he still would have been number one. So
Kyrie was third on the power rankings for Finals MVP. If a Nets were to win the NBA Finals, probably KD, probably James Harden number 2, and then Kyrie number 3. And you know what? Hey, Kyrie, another guy that's going to be, dancing his way into the Hall of Fame if he retired today, right? But the talent, I love it. I just think what Trae is doing right now, it is something that Kyrie has not done before. And for that reason, I got Trae at number 5. So to review, Steph, Dame, CP, Luka, Trae Young. We're both reserving our right that could be updated at any given
It could
moment.
be updated, but it's essentially pretty much the same. Except I got Luka right outside of Harden and Kyrie, but that's more off of reputation and trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. But at the same time, I was thinking last night, like, man, Trae is he in the conference finals and he performing, man. I can't not penalize him because other players have been in the league longer. They've had more chances. I know what he's doing with his one opportunity right here. And I'm not necessarily buying the idea that people are like, it's not fair to not take Luka down a bit just because of how good the Hawks are. First of all, the Hawks were 20-47 last year. And yes, they did get Bogey this year, who's pretty much their second best offensive player. If we're just looking at everybody on that team, he is their second best offensive player. They are also missing their best perimeter defender in an era where perimeter defense is at a complete premium in the NBA in DeAndre Hunter, and Cam Reddish is gone. Like they also fired their coach in the middle of the season.
Mid-season.
It's not as if the Hawks have just had this amazing foundation. We can give a lot of this credit to obviously Nate, but obviously Trae. It just is what it is.
Trae's development, just the steps he's taking. And like you talk to all the Hawks, John Collins is talking about it's a brotherhood. It's really, we are a family. And if Trae's the leader of that, you got to give him the credit. I'm tired, man, of the worship that Chris Paul has gotten for being out. Like, I get it. Yes, I think I'd say it online a lot. Like I think he's been a big help to the Suns and a big help specifically to campaign. But the credit that they're giving for individual players stepping up and being better basketball players is a little bit, not fair to the guys who are actually on the court, right? You talk about this, Kenny Smith. No, I'm sorry. It was Mike Wilbon and Stephen A. Smith. Pretty much just, we are not worthy, Chris Paul, and what he's doing. Like, he is Jesus out there. Or what was the basketball movie back in the day where old boy was dead, but he was still playing basketball, helping Six man. Thank you. Right. They got Chris Paul out there like he's 6 man, guiding the campaign shots and dribbles.
Right.
So, I'd say give the player the credit where it's due. And Trae Young taking these steps as just, being a small, shifty, annoying scorer into an actual leader of an Eastern Conference playoff team up 1-0. All hats off to him, man. Real quick, what's your predictions for the rest of this series? Are the Bucks about to tie it up in game 2?
I feel like my mind is saying the Bucks are going to mess around and win the series. My heart is telling me the Hawks are gonna win the series. I'm gonna.
Mind is telling me no. Yeah, no, I feel you, dog.
I'm gonna just say that the Bucks are gonna win in 7. I'm gonna give Giannis and Bud and Drew the benefit of the doubt just because even though the Hawks got to the same place the Bucks did in less time, I'm going to just give the Bucks the benefit of the doubt because they have the 2-time MVP. They have the defensive player of the year. They have been battle tested and had to suffer those bitter losses. So I feel like I'm just going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say that the Bucks will win in 7. Yeah,
Real quick,
shout
Jody, I did get your opinion on the West. Chris Paul is supposed to be returning, so just talk to me. How many wins do you think this series gets extended? Just give me a couple of thoughts about where this series is heading.
I don't see the Suns being, sometimes if a player comes back from injury, the team kind of get reacclimated to him for a while. I think Chris Paul is not one of those players where that's going to hinder them. So I think that they're going to be back to clicking on all cylinders just because of how Chris Paul is able to flow through the game. His win may be down, but they're not going to miss. They didn't miss his production. Campaign pretty much refilled his production. So the Clippers finally, for the first time in franchise history, got to the 3rd round, but they don't get any wins in the 3rd round. Did they really get to the 3rd round? It's going to be a conversation worth having.
I'm gonna put that in my my potential slander notes. Like, hey man, I'm just saying, if you show up to a dance and you don't dance with anybody, did you really go to the dance, right?
And they told me that injuries aren't that much of a big deal, even though I know it has to suck that Kawhi's not there. And to the one thing I want to say about Paul George, since we're talking about the Clippers, Paul George has had, I guess, as much of a resurgence year that he could have from how he ended last season. But missing those 2 free throws when you need at least 1 to tie the game or 2 to win is quintessential who he is.
After hitting a big shot, Jay.
It's just who he is. And that's okay because I probably am not hitting those free throws. Me, myself, but I'm also not getting $250 million.
To hit him. Right.
To hit him. But I think that's who he is. Don't put him in that situation. Hopefully you have Kawhi Leonard shooting those free throws. And from past history, Kawhi may or may not make those. That's a conversation for a different day. But the point is, Paul George has a pretty game, but he is who he is. He's going to take you but so far.
Did he do enough this season, this playoff so far, to put him on the untouchable list this offseason for the Clippers?
It just depends on what they want to do, man. If they want to win and try to get, it depends on who's available to them. But if they want to win and try to get either assets out of there or try to get a player that can accentuate Kawhi's positives more, because we've seen again in the Mavs series, Kawhi can still go to God mode. He still can go there.
We saw that.
But he needs somebody to set the table so that he can get them over the hump. Kawhi is not going to be the guy that's going to get you over the hump. You need the steak already there, and then Kawhi is going to be the seasonings, the Worcestershire sauce, the mushrooms, and everything that's going to make the steak on fire. You know what I'm saying?
Onions, all that good stuff.
Yep. Exactly. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? But so I guess it just, if they want to compete, have at it. But the competition is only like, the Lakers were significantly better than the West last year. And the West caught up to the Lakers a little bit. I'm talking about everybody being healthy. You know what I'm saying? Yep. So even as good as you are, the next season, people are going to get closer to where you are. So it just depends on what they want to do.
Finally, do you think Kawhi's upcoming summer, for all intents and purposes, we're assuming this is the end of his season, right?
Right. I'm assuming that.
We're just hoping it's not a tear. It's just, a bad sprain that takes, a month or so. It takes the summer to get right, but hopefully Kawhi misses no time next season. But Jody, with what seems to be the end of the Clippers run, do you think this offseason and Kawhi's free agency or impending free agency decision is going to be something that should be monitored closely, or will it be a uneventful situation?
I think it is going to be monitored closely, and this is just pure speculation. It would be the best business decision for him to opt out. Doesn't mean that he's necessarily gonna he won't re-sign with the Clippers, but I think the smart thing to do would be obviously to opt out. They'll still have his bird rights. And I just think if he's not going to Golden State, he might not be. If he's not going to Golden State, you might as well just stay in LA, stay where you are at home. And Paul George is already there, and he has a big contract. So in theory, he is tradable. I just don't see Paul George winning on this team with Kawhi Leonard, because a lot of what they do is kind of overlapping at this point, because Kawhi is not the defender that he used to be. His knees may
See
not hold up.
flashes of it. He could turn it on when he needs to, right?
Right,
But
he can.
for all intents and purposes, Kawhi has turned into an offensive assassin,
Correct.
mid-range god, and
Correct.
conserves his energy when he needs to. Like hell, how many times did we ask, is Kawhi or Paul George going to guard Luka? When is it going to happen? And then we get to Game 7, and Kawhi's like, "All right, I got it.
Let
Don't
me
worry
go
about
ahead
it."
and
You're
yeah,
right.
and so I feel like Paul George has shown that he's very capable of being a 25-7 guy if he's, the number one on the team, and he's probably their best asset.
hmm
So
You got me thinking with that Golden State. It still is California locked. Hell, Kawhi don't live nowhere close to the Staples Center right now in goddamn San
anyway,
Diego. So, he holding up team flights. I'm not saying San Francisco is closer to LA, but it's all the same when you are that wealthy and private jets are just at your disposal. So I think Golden State is his easiest
mhm,
transition to getting back to, oh no, I'm a top dog once again with other top dogs around me. And as long as we stay relatively healthy, we
we
should
can
be one
compete.
of the favorites to come out the West. The whole Miami thing, it's
I
cute,
don't see
right?
it.
But moving straight across the country after you fought for so long to move home, and I'm assuming home is the state of California, right?
Right,
That'd be a little bit tough for me. And I don't see New York, even though they've had a nice season, right? It's just those are some moon shots.
right.
I'm with you. If Kawhi leaves, Golden State's knocking. I think that Paul George being locked in his contract, you never know what happens, right? You look
Mhm.
up in Portland, see what those situations are going on with Dame. Hell, maybe even they say, a CJ and a whole bunch of other assets for Paul George is enough to, be more support for Kawhi. But
Right.
time will tell. All we know is Clippers getting the hell up out of there and about to be home in about a week's time. They might get bounced at Staples Center.
It would be hilarious to see that. And their season is on the line tonight because if they lose tonight, they're not winning 4 straight games. It's not about the.
It's over. I mean,
It's a
it's
wrap.
over. I love Ty Lue. Everybody was giving him his flowers for all the adjustments he's able to make game in and game out. And these games have been competitive, right? These are close games without
Mhm.
CP. But at the end of the day, it's not all playoff series are all blowouts. I think the Warriors little run
Skew
era
people's
of them
minds.
just stomping everybody all the way to the finals, and sometimes even in the finals, is unrealistic.
Mhm.
These dog fights happen, and then you look around and your team gets swept, and you look at the game logs and you're like, damn, we lost by 2, we lost by 4, we lost by 3. And then that last game, it's a blowout because the floodgates have opened. So,
Yeah.
we'll see if Chris Paul now extends this into being not really a competitive series, but looking forward to tonight's game. Jody, appreciate you coming on the show, brother.
No
Word from our
doubt. I'm glad you had
sponsors.
me on.
I had to lock in with my boy real quick. We'll get you back on for the show as we move into football season,
Oh
since our
yes.
Lakers are, in Honolulu
I'm looking
getting
forward to that, man.
a swim trunks swimming on. So appreciate you having you on, brother. We'll talk soon.
No doubt. Be good.
Okay, everybody, that's a wrap.